Welcome to the African Utility Week studio. I am Denise from Engerati.com, and we have in our studio today Mr. Charles Siwawa. Thank you very much for joining us. He is the CEO of the Botswana Chamber of Mines. Very interesting subject. Would you like to tell us how the conference is going so far for you and how the presentation went?
I think the conference is going very well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subjects and topics that are coming through that are very instrumental and relevant to the mining industry in terms of the provision of power, issues around water, and all those kind of issues. I think they are becoming quite important for the mining industry to tackle those at the moment. Yeah. So I think very relevant in terms of the topics under discussion this week, and I think it's really a conference that I would like to see happening very regularly.
Yes.
Sure.
There seems to be a growing need for the mining industry to become more power independent due to perhaps unreliable sources of power from the grid. Would you like to expand on that subject?
Yes, I think there's a whole host of issues that contribute to mining houses wanting to become independent.
Yeah.
The first one, of course, is that mines are, by definition, not necessarily located close to
the
source
grid,
of
centralized
to the grid
yeah.
and so forth. So you'll find that where they are, the grid perhaps is unstable first, and secondly, the mining operations themselves require constant power. Any surge in power or any dip in power is a problem to the mining industry. So they need power that is constantly and reliably available at all times, 100%. So that's the reason why most of the mines are choosing to become independent. Also, some of the mines are remotely located and there is no grid. And if there's no grid, you can't stop production simply because there's no grid. So you then have to operate your own microgrid, so to say, in order to develop this power. In other instances, it's an issue of costs. Finding that some of the to get power to your location could be quite expensive. Whereas if you develop your own microgrid, it could come out a little bit cheaper than if you're dependent on the main grid. So those are really some of the issues that we see.
What is the percentage, with regards to mines, wanting to create microgrids for themselves? Is it quite a large percentage?
No, I think it's not such large at the moment, but I think the need is there. As and when the national power supplier is becoming less, not less efficient, but unable to deliver power to certain areas, then of course the desire to produce minerals for these companies supersedes the availability of these grids. So they will then go ahead and create their own power grids to continue supplying the power.
And what challenges are they up against by going more for energy independence? What challenges are they facing other than finance, of course, I'm sure?
Yes. There's a couple of challenges that you will see. Firstly, there's the issue of capital expenditure. Because when you are operating a mine, your focus, your expertise area is that of becoming a mining operator and not a utility supplier. So that is the first challenge. So you're going to have to, other than looking for capital to open your mine, you've got to look for capital to supply you with power. So that's the first. So it affects your cash flow in that respect. So that is the first challenge. Secondly, like I say, your expertise really lies with mining operation and not supplying or utilities like power. So that you find that you're out of depth in those.
You need to find a third party. You need to find a vendor to assist you. Surely a project manager to guide you.
And with that, of course, we know that once you have a middleman, you have added costs. So at the end of the day, you find that
just a vicious circle of
expenses.
It's a vicious
circle, of expenses. And then, of course, if you are choosing to supply your power using diesel as an example, diesel fuel, you find that as the price fluctuates, you find yourself in problems in terms of escalating costs.
Are there any exciting developments that you've picked up on recently within the mining industry? You know, with these huge power consumers, you know, creating their own power. Are there any exciting developments that you can pick on and expand on a bit?
Well, I think the first thing is that the microgrids
Yeah.
are becoming more stable because you are now utilizing more stable entities to supply your power.
Yeah.
We've seen in the past 6 months or so the fuel price, diesel price, having gone significantly down. So that has also helped these companies to be able to strengthen their ability to generate power. Let's not forget that microgrids have always historically been there.
Yes.
And we've used diesel. But the diesel price went up to the extent that it became unaffordable to do that.
Yeah.
But now I think with the price of diesel having gone down, it's actually bringing back that issue of having to create these microgrids.
Now, what about clean power? Are they looking at wind turbines? Are they looking at solar farms?
Yes. Also, I was coming to that. The issue of wind turbines and solar farms is becoming more fashionable.
Yes.
But remember that your mining operations run 24 hours a day, so they would need to have storage, and that is one of the biggest disadvantages of running with this. So what the companies tend to do is to run solar during the day and diesel during the night. So you have a combination of both.
And there are batteries on the market. I mean, we were obviously Tesla is a big fashionable word during the course of this conference with their batteries that they've brought out. You know, it's competitive and you know, they've put them out on the shelves, and I think they've sold out you know, very quickly. Is the mining industry looking at this option?
Yes.
You know, looking at batteries? Is it too expensive? Is there perhaps maybe not a suitable solution at this point for the industry?
You must remember that, you know, power, electricity, is one of the big inputs in the mining operations.
Yeah.
So if you can have a combination of solar power or wind energy together with storage facilities that still come out at the same cost as coal generated power or less, I think the industry will go for that. So there's no doubt that the industry is seriously looking at these issues.
Yeah.
If we can find storage capacity that will come in at cheaper than what we're currently doing, I think we'll definitely go for that.
Well, I think, you know, with solar prices coming down significantly over the years, and with the research and development into energy storage solutions, you know, with Tesla coming onto the shelves at reasonably competitive rates, I reckon that might be a reality in a few years' time. There definitely seems to be an urgency and a need for good storage solutions.
Yes, definitely.
Where do you see your industry in 10 years' time with regards to power supply, having a good, solid, reliable power supply that, you know, the mining industry can just carry on with, you know, good business and carry on doing what they do best?
I think there's no doubt, you know, the mining industry is looking towards clean fuel technology.
Yeah.
So even with the coal generation, you know, there is research going on to try and produce that fuel or that energy using clean coal technology.
Yeah.
So even with the solar energy and wind energy and so forth, if the battery systems are available, and I've seen presentations, and not only that, realities, that the cost of producing solar panels is going down by the day. So there will come a situation where the cost of producing this is much lower than the cost of producing power using coal, for instance.
Yeah.
So in future, I see the mining industry moving a lot more towards clean coal or clean fuel technology than the current production methods.
It sounds like the Chamber of Mines is certainly, you know, on the road to, you know, you know what you're wanting, you know that you need reliable sources of power. Where does that leave the utility? Is this making them a bit nervous that you're creating your own power and that you're going off the grid completely perhaps in a few years' time?
I think it would be wrong to say no, they are not nervous.
Yeah.
Because in the country where I come from, and indeed in a lot more other countries, you'll find that mining industry consumes about 50% of the national grid.
That's a huge consumer.
It's a very huge consumer. So if you are looking at alternatives, obviously to send a fugitive. But I think what is important is for the national utility provider
Yeah.
to also change them, because there's nothing to say that they cannot ride on the bandwagon and also produce power
Yeah.
using solar energy.
Yeah.
So they can become still the utility of choice or utility provider of choice. So I think, yes, they should be trying to move away from the traditional methods of generating power,
Yeah.
more towards the clean technologies of producing power.
Are they doing that? Do you foresee them doing that? Changing their vision?
Because in a business,
Yeah.
if you don't change your strategy, you're bound to fall. So they would have to change their strategy and move more towards clean energy generation.
Exactly,
There's
and
no
I mean,
doubt.
we've seen that now with the changing of business models in Europe. Some of
Yes.
them just weren't fast enough.
Yes.
You know, they had to change their business models, change their strategies altogether to be
Yeah.
able to keep up with this competitive industry.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
some of them just haven't done it
Yeah.
and have lost major opportunities.
Yeah.
So do you think if you had a message for utilities, what would you tell them?
I think the message is here that the world around is talking about the environment, is talking about climate change. So the utility provider has got to move on with the times.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of pressure now in terms of trying to change the way we produce energy.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to change with that. Look, if they're going to continue, because let's not forget about it. There's been huge investment into the coal-generated power stations.
Yeah.
So they're going to try and move on and try to clean the coal before it's burned.
Yeah.
Or after it has been burned. You clean the atmosphere. And also, they're going to try also to move to your solar energy, to your wind energy, so
Yeah.
that you can move on with the times. And I
Absolutely.
bet you, in another 10, 15 years' time, the community, the society,
Yeah.
will not be happy with dirty fuels and stuff like that. So they will also be putting pressure on the utility provider to be able to change and make sure that the power that they give to the society and to the community
Yeah.
is from clean coal.
And your final word to the mining industry, what is your suggestion or your advice to them?
I think the mining
Throughout Africa.
throughout Africa.
Yeah,
I think,
what do you suggest to them?
I would say that microgrids will play an important role
Yeah.
in the provision of power in the future, and that these microgrids have got to come from clean energy production.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is where we should be going as a region, as a continent. And I must also add that we know that the access to electricity in SADC has got
Yeah.
the lowest accessibility to power
That's right.
in the region. I think we're talking about 34%, whereas in West Africa we're talking about 46 or thereabouts. So what we need to do is to be able to utilize these microgrids with clean energy production to be able to have electricity accessible to all the regions in SADC and to all the population and the whole society within SADC. So I think there is scope
Yeah.
for us to be able to move on these microgrids.
Well,
and provide
certainly
power.
a forward-thinking industry. I'm highly impressed and very excited to see what happens in the next few years. And I
Yeah.
hope that the utilities certainly do see the opportunities that are on offer to them,
Yes.
and work closely with your industry. And I'm sure they will.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for your time. I trust that the rest of the last day will be of great interest to you and that you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining us in the studio. And thank you to our viewers for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I certainly did. And you'll see on our website we do have a number of studio interviews that you can click on and have a look at. Thank you.